All right, afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining today after a little bit of a gap. Um, we're going to have a couple of perfSONAR talks in a row this month. We're going to be starting off with Phil Reese, and he agreed to go through a real step-by-step sort of example set of slides and maybe even a demo if we can convince him to show everybody how to set up a perfSONAR test point. We're going to make sure that this is, of course, recorded and the slides are saved, and we'll get this posted to the various sources so you can share with people from your home institutions. And then we have a 1 week gap because of Internet 2 Comics, and then I think the week after we have perfSONAR office hours. So it'll be a little bit of an opportunity for people to reinvest in getting their perfSONAR systems up and running. So I'll turn it over to Phil now, and everybody does have the ability to sort of unmute yourself. Just to sort of keep order, I'd say if you do have a question when Phil's talking, maybe throw your hand up and I can acknowledge you, and then we can interrupt. But this is meant to be a tutorial sort of thing, so people certainly should be asking questions. And if you just want to type in your question into the chat room, that's fine too. I'll be watching both. So I will throw it over to Phil to get us started.
Well, thanks, Jason. Welcome, everyone, and it's a pleasure to be here. Haven't done this in front of anybody before, but it'll be good to get into it. So what I'm going to do is a little bit unusual. I'm going to step through all my slides relatively quickly and then come back to them one by one. But just to give you a breadth of what we're going to talk about today, what I'd like to talk about today. And Jason is right. We're going to build a whole 3 test point system with archive and Grafana grid system and show you what the results are. I think you'll be interested in how it all comes together. So the main goal is to get the thing on the left over here to show you a 3x3 grid and to show how that gets built. Why build such a tiny implementation? We'll talk about that. Build a working Grafana node with 3 test points. Show and discuss a fully populated old and new system. Talk about the .json characteristics. Why build such a thing? And then we'll spend a lot of time here actually building a Grafana using the cockpit tool. We'll talk about some of the key things in the JSON file. We'll compare the current perfSONAR Grafana grid versus the former Mad Dash grid and just show some comparisons. That'll be fun. Look at the difference in the JSON between the new and the old. We'll point out that the new Grafana server is just a little box, and it's fine to run it on a little box. And some random comments and questions, and I think we fall into this next step, which is all the steps that I've put together in this one are available on GitHub, and you're welcome to go look at them and grab them and try it out for yourself. And then we'll go back to Q&A. So let's jump out of this and go back to the top. And for this part, I'm going to keep it on a small screen. I apologize about that, but I'm going to use some fancy Zoom stuff and share multiple screens at the same time, and that'll be fun. But just to keep it simple for myself, because I'm not an experienced Zoomer, we're going to do it this way. So why do you want to build? Why would I want to build a 3x3 grid when you want to have more than 3 typically in a grid? Well, first thing is that I've been doing this for quite a while, and in the Mad Dash world, it was hard to get a 3x3 grid to work, period. There was just a lot of pieces that you had to get right and a lot of questions that you have when things didn't go right and how could you recover. And so when the new one came out, I continued my trajectory and kept building 3x3s to get everything working. And I certainly have that figured out. And as you could see, we have a large grid at Stanford. It's almost 30 by 30. And I'll be talking about what that grid does for the campus and why we did it that way. But that's one of the main reasons why we built a small 3x3 one. Let's talk about more of the reasons. First one is obviously to confirm that all the pieces work, and that's trivial to say, but it's actually pretty important as you get into it. But another reason is to do the test of an existing deployment and see beta code impact the future production. And I have an example of that in the current beta that we're in for perfSONAR 5.2, and we have a comparison with the production code of perfSONAR right now. So it's an example of why you would try this out with the beta code and just be sure that everything works as you think it's going to work. And of course, it allows 3x3 allows quick modifications of the JSON for testing and getting that right and tuning it up. And of course, you can add and test models. You can add different meshes. Maybe you want to have multiple meshes or multiple disjoint grids and add some of the filters. A lot of the talk recently on the list has been about using filters, and I think that's an interesting thing. And again, I think it's makes more sense logically to me to do it on a small system than to throw it out on a 10x10 or 20x20 grid. So the next part of it is they're actually going to build it from scratch. Couple comments on this. I chose to use the Cockpit VM platform, and the reason for that is that it's across almost all the major OSs. It's available in Debian, Ubuntu, Red Hat, ELs, Rocky, and Alma, and of course, the one I particularly use is Fedora. But so it's just a broad platform for making VMs. And I think that if you are into VMs, you have your own way of doing it, which is fine, and I encourage you to use that. But if you just get into VMs, it might be one of the easier tools to use to start using VMs. So I'm going to drop the screen for a minute and come back into it with a different perspective. Hold on. Okay. So I guess the first thing I'll do is I'll show you the production Grafana system. So here's the Grafana system for a 3x3. It's called archive-d, but it really is for the current production perfSONAR grid, and sure everything. Oh, look at that. That's an interesting issue. And we'll talk more about that when we get to the beta. Again, we're having trouble with this. But anyway, this does show that the grid populated, and by and large, this is a good sign. And that's what we're going to do. This shows the Cockpit VMs behind this perfSONAR deployment. You can see that they're all running, and there's not too many of them in here. And I named this one A base, so it stays out of the way. So it's the base deployment, and then I have archive, and then the 3 test points. So what we're going to do for the step-by-step is we're going to start with something. So Cockpit is a tool, and then what you do is you build VMs within that tool. The VM I built, just because it takes a long time to build, is a basic Rocky 9 VM. So the server that this is running on is a small box. It's essentially an Intel NUC. This one is a little bit faster than a NUC. It's an N100 based system. It has 16 gig of RAM, and it's a very modest system with 4 cores. So I built a Rocky 9 VM, and just doing the normal, grab the ISO, put it into the process, and off we go. One of the features of this, to get this to work on a single box, to get a 4-system combo to work on a single box, you need to use something called Mac VTAP, or in cockpit parlance, it's called direct attachment. And that's something I'll talk about a lot, and it's very important. If you don't get it right, your boxes can't talk to each other. The other thing you just want to be aware of, and it's okay, is that the main box, the Fedora box, the Rocky box, the Debian box, can't talk to the VMs, but that's okay, because all we want to do in this case is to have the VMs talk to each other. It's just a reality that will cause you to scratch your head once in a while. So this VM is basically just Rocky. I've updated it, so it's has all the updates. I've done SH copy ID to copy my username into there, and so it's a seamless login. And I've also allowed passwordless sudo on that. I did one other thing. I copied the JSON file that we're going to use to this base Rocky VM already. The archive system needs that. The Testpoints don't, but it's just easier to do it this way than to try to remember to do it in the heat of things. All right, so I'm going to go through a lot of steps pretty quickly here. And as I mentioned from the first run through the slides, there's a GitHub that goes through this in a little bit slower pace, and you can see it, and all the bits are there. But I just wanted to do this fairly quickly to show you that it can be done in about 20 minutes, and that that works, and that but it's going to take a little bit of concentration on my part. But so just hang with me. So the first thing I want to do is I want to clone. Actually, before I go there, let me just outline the general step. So basically, I have a single Rocky solid VM. And what I want to do with that is I want to make a copy of that VM and create the archive node with the Grafana and the other open search and all the other features of that server. And then I want to build 3 separate test points. And since each test point is essentially the same, all I do is I build one, and then I clone it to 2 more for a total of 3. And all the changes, the only change that I make to that test point is I change the MAC address so that my DHCP server gives me a different MAC address, gives me a different IP for each of the instances. And so the idea is to make 4 systems, and 3 are test points, and 1 is the archive host. So here we go. So I'm going to clone it, but I have a little cheat sheet over here where I have some of the MAC addresses as I talked about. And so we'll get this one going. So I made a mistake already. I forgot to name it. So let's rename it. So we'll call this one archive. And then we'll come down to the network interface. And here's where it's really important. This is where the typical thing that comes up is, I think it's virtual network is where it comes up. But I don't want the virtual network. I want the direct attach network. And I want to attach it to the active port on this box. And this box happens to have a 10 gig box. And so it's port 7. And then all I want to do here is change the MAC address to the MAC address that I use for the archive system. And there we have it. And now I start that up. And I come back over here, and I have this long line to copy. And basically all that this does is it's the entire thing to build an archive Grafana site. And so I come back over to my, you'll see I was cheating and was working on another system here. That wasn't what I wanted to do. That's okay. By the way, I'm using iTerm, and iTerm's got a bunch of cool things, which many of the systems have, where you can take a single pane and divide it up. So what I want 4 panes, and I'll start here on the bottom. I just logged into the archive system I created over here. And now all I'm going to do is I'm going to take the copy of this and I'm just going to paste it in here and stand back. But while that's going, it's going to take a while. By the way, I want to make a point of noting that there's a member among us, Mark Feit, who is responsible for putting together this fantastic curl line here. That's just phenomenal. I use it all the time. I give him credit all the time, and he bashfully bows his head away from it. But it's really been a game changer for me because of all the test points and toolkits I've built over time. This just makes it so much easier to use this tool for doing all my builds. While that's going, I can't waste the time, so I'm back over to here. I'll go back to the base item. I'll get a clone, and what I want to name this one is PS01. And we'll clone it. And I'll come over here to my cheat sheet and I'll grab the MAC address. It's done. I scroll down here. Be sure it's direct attach. Be sure the the source is right, and put in the MAC address and start it up. We can watch on the right and see when it's done. And that's done, and I can log into it now. And I go back to my cheat sheet, grab that and paste it in. And this all starts working. Now, these two take a long time to build. So what are we going to talk about in the meantime? What have any questions come up? Just so I don't miss that.
Nope, none yet.
Okay. So what can we talk about here? There's a lot of complexity in the perfSONAR process. And the first time you open the documentation for it, you go, whoa. And you're right to go, whoa, because it covers a lot of nuts and bolts, but it also has a lot of depth to it. In my opinion, they haven't pulled out the nuts and bolts from the depth. And so you just keep reading and reading and reading. And by the time you get to the end of it, you forgot the nuts and bolts. And so, again, my goal of this is to try to bring the nuts and bolts out of it so that you can get something working. And then you can go back and read about all the neat things that pScheduler can do, and all the things about filtering, and all the things about all the nuances and archive opportunities and stuff that you can do in the meantime. But you do have a working system to begin to play with. And especially working on a single box, it's pretty trivial. This could be done on multiple boxes. If you have the hardware, you could just put it out there. It is convenient for me to put it on a single box. And like I said, it's a 4-core, actually it's a 2-core with 4 threads system. And maybe this is the time to show it. Let's see if I can show it to people. So this is what a NUC looks like. If my background doesn't block it too much. It's really quite a small box and kind of basic. And we got these in 2018, and they have just been workhorses. And I can't be happy with that. We got it was a little bit expensive at the time to get the NUCs at that time, but they really have performed. We actually haven't had any failures. All that we've had is we've had some fans fail, and we just had to replace the fans. And so that has been a pretty neat thing. And daunting to look across campus, and you look at the uptimes on some of these boxes, and it's not in weeks, it's in years, and they just have run and run and run and run and run. They're scattered all across campus, and so it's a challenge to, well, you don't want to go out and touch the boxes very often, and so uh, along the way we developed a way of managing them. So we came up with a pixie boot process, and so we can pixie boot them from wherever they are, which is a pretty cool thing. And in fact, when we updated from the former, was it PS4 to PS5, where you really had to reboot, where you had to leave CentOS 7 in the dust and move to EL9 or more. I did all that through just developing a Pixie script and then Pixie booting all the boxes, all the remote boxes. And I would say 90% of them came up, and I had to go out and touch a few of them. But of the 30 that are out there, more than 20 came up and just worked. So that has been a really neat thing for us to be able to do. And it's a one-man shop for doing this. I'm the kind of perfSONAR guy on campus. And so while the networking people like it and benefit from it, uh, they have other things to do. And so this is my project to keep going. We're getting along on the build here. And hopefully it's not too distracting to see all the lines scroll by, but I'm very used to it. And I expect you are too, if you've played with perfSONAR at all. And especially, again, Mark Feit's great script that just keeps everything going from start to finish. I should also mention that the systems I'm building are the beta versions. And so this all is happening on a Fedora 42 box. And the cockpit is making virtual machines and Rocky 9. And we're loading up the beta 2, I think it's beta 2 of the new OS, the new perfSONAR, I should say. I think we're getting close to the PS1 completing. Yeah, maybe not. Let's take a look at the script a little bit. Over here, this is a long script. In fact, so people get the idea of it. While this is one line, it's broken up using the backslash, or I think it's called, it's not the backslash, forward slash. Anyway, this guy at the end of the line. So it's just a continuation. So the line could be all the way over to the edge of the screen. But with this, I can wrap the line and wrap it accordingly. So just adding this to the script tells the script to use the beta version of perfSONAR that's out there. And for the test point, I want it to use the auto updates, and I want to use the security fixes, and I want to make a test point. And at the end, on the same line, I want it to add this URL. So it's psconfig remote add this URL. And again, Mark's script is so cool, it automatically adds that by just putting this at the end of the line. Oh, look at, we got the archive done first, and so is the PS1. Okay, so with the archive that it's finished, we're just going to let it sit. So right now it has published. I'll scroll this a little bit. Right now we see that we have a entering the command ps remote list shows the URLs that are published and are available. The PSO1 also is looking for that URL. Now we've got to build a couple more boxes over here. So to do that, I power off PSO1. Well, I gotta wait for it to shut down. Go back and get the right MAC address. Stuff it in there. Again, making sure we have direct attach and the right port. Do it one more time. I thought of a mistake I made. Let's see if we can live with it or if we can't. The mistake I made is that the archive, because of good old OpenSearch, really needs more memory than I currently have given it. So I'm actually going to shut it down. This is a risk in a live demonstration, but what the heck? And I'll just add more memory to it. It's kind of a funky way to do it. Not sure why they did it this way, but there it is. And we'll bring it back up. So while it's going to come up pretty quick, because of all the significant components that make up the archiving and the Grafana, OpenSearch and Grafana by itself, it's going to take a while to actually come all the way up. And so I'm going to come back over here and log back in. And I'm using some cheat buttons here that allow me to choose a bunch of commands without having to type them all the time. And so what I want to do is I want to not look at that one. I want to do the testing one. So I want to do the PS archive troubleshoot just to see what's going on here. Okay, so we've didn't make it through the troubleshoot, but I think this is just because it's too soon. So we'll wait a little bit longer and see where things go. I believe that all these should be up, so let's log into these while we have some time. Oh, yeah, you got to turn them on. So, sorry, the archive host is the first host that should be turned on, and that kind of sets the stage. And then the three test points come up after that. It has to do with publishing the JSON and getting the psconfig remote add working at the right time so that the test points can grab the work from the main archive system. Okay, there it is. We'll do it with this one too. Oops, did something wrong. Oh yeah. Hmm. Well, just okay. This is great. So you'll note I didn't use the the option to not check for the running of OpenSearch in the PS archive troubleshoot command. I can shoot to show it. You can see here the PS archive troubleshoot. You can add another command here that just skips the last step of the troubleshoot. And basically, when you first get it going, that's the recommendation from the documentation. But I always want to see if OpenSearch is ready yet. And so I always use this one and just let the other one fail. And I just know that OpenSearch hasn't completed running yet. All right, let's see where we are on PS2. I wonder if I didn't get the right MAC address. And I didn't. Okay, see, it should end in 02 and it ends in 045. So I botched that one, but that's okay. 42. The other cool thing iTerm has is you can toggle broadcasting input. So I can now link these two, I think I can, link these two screens together. So I can ask it to do a PS remote list and it shows what their work URL is. And I think PS2 is back among us. Yep. And we'll just link that one into the mix as well. Just for goodness sake, we'll run the PS config troubleshoot on all of the test points and just confirm that they're all working. I bet they are. They don't always, but that troubleshoot command is a nice command to know if you're making progress or not. And then another thing, basically what I'm doing is I'm just stalling because I want the grid to have a chance to populate. And so I'm just trying to do something with my hands in the meantime. Let's check to see where we are on that. So we'll load the URL for it. I'm going to make a mistake here and show you what the mistake is. What? Why is it going? It's just broke. What happened? Well, the URL for this is HTTPS. Even though it doesn't have a cert, it has a bypass. Uh-oh. There we go. So here we go. Another thing that surprisingly often happens, it comes up with this. So we've gotten past the HTTP versus HTTPS issue and service unavailable. What do you think that is? Any thoughts from anybody? It's a quiet group. I know what it is. It's Grafana server often doesn't start when you restart the archive system. So let's see if that solved anything. Oh, look at that. We've got the Grafana going and we've got dashboards. Let's see if we have anything in the dashboards. And we have grids populating. So this is pretty good. Now, a couple things. I think this fun to talk about here, or if we go back to the dashboards, we see this one, and I've always been puzzled by that one because this is the 3x3 grid, and it's right there. It looks good. And then this is the 1x2 grid. It's called the disjoint grid, and this one takes a little bit longer to populate, but it's going to populate. But what does this one do? Well, sorry. What does the all perfSONAR measurements do? Well, it looks like it just does the top three. In fact, I was confused by that forever. And then I just scrolled a little more, and it adds the disjoint grid as well. So basically, the all perfSONAR measurements gives you any grids that you have embedded on that particular machine. So I have a 3x3 grid, a mesh, and I have a disjoint mesh, a disjoint grid as part of this machine. And so that's why, and I can get to them individually, or I can get to all of them at the same time. Again, that took me a long time. I thought, well, it's just a wasted line. Why do they even have it there? But then I found out why you have it there, why it's there. So let's go back and see how we're doing.
The one comment did come in, Phil. Herbie
Yeah,
was pointing out if you were to do a system control enable Grafana server, would that help start the no restart issue?
that's what I did.
Actually, what you did is not exactly the same. I just followed up. I was curious if you did a system control status Grafana server, if it shows it as enabled. Enabled
Well,
when you
I
start
see. Yeah, got it.
the system, it'll boot up. If it's not, then it'll stay down. It should be getting enabled by default, but it looks like maybe it's not for you.
We suggested to go look at this.
No, the command line. If you go to the command line,
Oh, okay.
system control status.
Status. Sure, sure. Yeah, I happen to know that that's the error for the status not being good, and just restart it. But yeah, so let's do it. Of course, it's going to be good this time. See the green dot over here, and
Yeah, it's running. Usually it says towards the top if it's enabled or not. I don't know if your output's maybe getting cut off.
there it is, active and running.
Well, that's not the same. That means it's running. Doesn't mean it's enabled. Enabled means it'll start on boot.
I see.
Active just means it's running right now. Usually, I don't remember the command. I think maybe there's a system control is enabled. Is hyphen
Well,
like that.
well, that's Mark because I'm using his script, and it would be part of the script.
Well, no, actually, it would be part of the RPM install process. So Mark doesn't go script, just pulls down the RPMs. It doesn't enable the services. So
I'm Mark. Are you on the line?
I'm on the hook, probably. Yeah, no. So I mean, this is really a function of the packages that install this. So in other words, like so this is great. I get to sort of say that's not really my fault. But what's happening is the script just says go install these bundles basically, or these packages, and the packages themselves are what's responsible for setting all that up. So I mean, it could be there's a bug in the packaging where it's not getting enabled properly, or something else weird is going on. So we just need to look at it and check.
Okay. Often it comes up running. It's, I would say rare that it doesn't, but I've seen it enough that I know that that's what you need to do to kick it to start it. So I think that's all I want to talk about here. There's a lot more to talk about but we're running out of time. So again, if there's not a lot more chats, sorry, getting spastic here. Okay, so when you want to run it yourself, the 3x3 JSON is part of the GitHub distribution. You want to be sure that you change things in there to make it for your own deployment. So be sure to change the FQDNs. And then this is an interesting thing that we'll talk about here. host one, and then just put the FQDN there. And let's do a quick comparison to new versus old. So I think if we go here, so this is live and this is live. And so this is the former Mad Dash that we still kept running. You can see up here, it's April 25. And then here, it doesn't really give you the date, but we'll just do refresh and we'll see it's live. What's interesting is that if we go back and forth, they're not exactly the same grid. But that's what happens. Now, to talk about that a little bit further, I have another little thing to show you. One of the things that we learned as we were doing this is that each of these gives you kind of a point in time. And so sometimes people aren't staring at these all the time, and sometimes they want to see what it was during the day at other times of the day. And so I made a little script that does a screen capture and makes a movie every night and then posts it. So here's the movie from yesterday of the Mad Dash, and here's the movie from yesterday from the current perfSONAR. So let's see if I can get this going. You see they're pretty different. Similar, but pretty different. I'm not sure I like that or not, but it's what we got.
Phil, I don't want to steal your thunder. Do you want me to explain that difference to you?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So a big difference of the new one is you have a lot more control over what time window you're looking at. So when you have that page up, it defaults to the last 24 hours. The old Mad Dash, you had no control over what time frame you were looking at. It always was the latest thing that got reported to the Mad Dash backend. I believe latency results by default, we're looking at the last 15 minutes. So that yellow box is colored based on if it saw loss in the last 15 minutes. Whereas your other one is showing you what if you saw any loss in the last whatever the time range you have selected. So like the original one you had was the last 24 hours, right? So you could change that to the last 15 minutes. To make your movie, you wouldn't even have to take a screen capture every night. You could just do that now and just change the time range you have selected and say, okay, what did it look like at, noon yesterday? What's it look like at noon today? What's it look like at, keep changing the time. So you have a lot more flexibility over what time range you're looking at. And then I also don't know the other aspect too is I don't know if the thresholds have been synced. So that's another thing to watch out for is if you have custom thresholds on your old one and are just using the defaults on the new one, that there might be discrepancies there.
Yeah. Oh, we're using pretty much defaults on both of them. The capture is a new screenshot, a new screen URL refresh on a 5-minute basis, and here it's on a also screenshot on a 5-minute basis, looking at the last 5 minutes. So it's kind of I tried to equalize them as much as I could, but there we are. The other thing that again time is slipping, but what's also fun to look at is the problem child. So if we look at say this here, I'm tempted to click it, but I have clicked it, and here's what comes up when I click at that button. So that system, and it's actually this SRN SRCF2 system, is having trouble, and I think I know what it is. I'm pretty sure it's a dirty fiber to that connection, and it happened about 20 days ago. And this is pretty clear, showing what happened, that it started getting latency, more and more latency, more and more loss, I should say, rather, and boom. Now, if we look at the new one, and this is, I think I asked it for a 15-day, yeah, it must be a 15. No, what did I do here?
Probably if you click those 3 dots on the top menu up to the right, probably your screen's just, yeah.
There it is. So 15 days. And we see that it's a little bit harder to see the issue. in the same 15 days. We can see that the throughput is up and down, up and down, up and down, which does match this. But the loss is not as clear. So again, these are just, because I have them available, I just thought I would put these together to show the differences between Mad Dash and the current perfSONAR. And Andy, I'm sure it's my use of it. I don't think there's anything wrong with the tool. It's just the novice level use of it.
No, I mean, it's fine. Like, you know, one thing too is you're getting more stats on that page. So like if you were to just click on the min line in the new one, I mean, I haven't done it, so I don't know if it'll look any better or not, but that would be the equivalent of what's on the old one, right? It's just showing the min loss.
Which one would that be?
If you go back, so if you go to the latency, for example, scroll down to that second set and see you have the blue min underneath in the legend.
Yeah.
Click on that. And I don't know how that compares to what you had earlier. Obviously some clock issues on that one because getting some negative latencies. So, so that's probably the equivalent of that brown line on the old one.
This one?
That's RTT. Yeah, that's the RTT, the yellow. Oh, I'm sorry, you're looking at packet loss. I was talking latency. Packet loss, I think we're just showing the max packet loss. That should be about right. But
well, but it doesn't show that there was a problem that ramped up.
Yeah.
So this is 15 days as well. Where did I show that? Should be 15 days. April. Anyway, all I want to say is that it's interesting to look at both of them, and that's pretty much all I want to say about it. The other thing that I want to talk about quickly, we're 48 minutes into it already. We're not inundated with questions, so I'll keep going. Basically, the new JSON and the old JSON are a little bit different. The old JSON seemed to have a richer possibility for naming the addresses and the groups. So here in the Stanford area, we allow aliases for FQDNs. And so here I was able to say that the simple name for the FQDN, and then I use a simple name down here for the name for the groups. And that allowed me to have a grid that just had the simple name without the continuous Stanford.edu, Stanford.edu, Stanford.edu that is a part of the Grafana grid. So it's just a little different. The other thing and so that I started doing this in PS5, and then I realized that really the only thing it's looking for is the single FQDN, and so you can just refer to it as host 123, host 123 everywhere else, and it works just fine. And so it's a very much simpler to edit this than to edit this one, which was a real find for me. Another comment is that this system 30 by 30 runs on this tiny little box. It's a little bit older version of Nook than I showed you physically, and it just runs. It does have more RAM. It does have 32 gig of RAM, and so RAM is what the archiver needs most of all. And oh yeah, I have to do my show and tell. Does anybody recognize this box? Anybody? Jason, you might remember it.
Oh, was that one we handed out at one of the first workshops?
That is one of those from that workshop. Yes, it is.
All right. Well, I know that some of them still exist out there.
Yeah, it's still working. It's just not very powerful anymore.
And as Hans points out, the Montana workshop, right? I guess, right?
No, it was the San Diego one
Oh, okay.
with John Graham and company. I think you were there too. I think you and Matt were there.
Oh, I'm sure they all blend together.
Yeah, I'm sure they do, Jason. Anyway, So again, we're running out of time, but why did we opt to go with this kind of a grid? What does it do for us? Let me find. perfSONAR typically would go out and test hosts on the net, on the WAN side of the net. And what we've done is we've chosen to look at the hosts within the Stanford net. And the premise of this is that we went from a backbone that was basically limited to subnet or VLAN per building, and to any VLAN anywhere model. And what we were frustrated with is that where it was at the building level, people would call us and say, "Hey, my building's down." And the networking people didn't know that. They had no tools to tell if a particular net, particular subnet or VLAN was down. And so there's no way. And I hated to have those calls come in to us and say, "Hey, the network's down." In fact, it really was down. And the community was telling us the network is down. And that's just not the way we should run the business. And so by putting these hosts at the edge of the network, talking to each other, we now can tell whether or not the network is healthy or not. And we can see host to host, network to network. Basically, there's a PS node on each router and on the campus facing side of the firewall. And so we can really test. So we really get the user perspective of how the network is performing. And so we actually know ahead of time when something goes wrong, and we don't get those calls from the irate customers out on the campus. And so this has really been a great help to networking in general and our firewall group in particular, to have this tool available, and that the movies have been nice to see as well. And I think maybe we'll wrap it up there. Questions? Here's where you can find it on GitHub. All right.
Yeah, so I'll
Pretty
make
quiet.
sure I'll get that URL posted in the mail that I send out as well, Phil. And if you can just send me a copy of those slides.
Sure.
So we'll open up the floor. If anybody does have any questions they want to ask.
So Phil, just one
Yes.
comment that I had put in chat.
Sure.
I think I maybe figured out while you were jumping around the tabs the mystery of the difference between the old Mad Dash page and the page you're showing. I think the old Mad Dash page was going back to March 9th, not April 9th. I think I saw the x-axis was March 9th, so it was a month and 15 days, not 15 days. I think that might be it, but it went by pretty fast, so it's possible
So March 9.
Yeah, so really not. So April 9th would be 15 days ago, right? But I think the Mad Dash, the old
Oh,
Mad
correct.
Dash was going to March 9th. So that's probably why we weren't seeing the pattern, because it was just the Grafana one was just showing the recent
Right.
stuff. So
Perfect. Oh,
And
so
Nick did type in a comment here. Is there anything else you can say about the filtering capabilities you alluded to a little bit earlier?
I don't use filtering, but I know that this would be a place to try it out. So, okay, you're absolutely right. Here we go. There we go. Thank you, Andy. That's very exactly what it is. So I don't know. I don't do filtering, but this seems like a nice melting pot to try things out.
Great. Does anybody have any other questions for Phil? All right. Well, thanks everybody.
There's one in chat there, Jason.
Oh, did I miss one?
Yeah.
No, I got Nick's.
Okay, it's one from Owen Corley asked if we're using the ESNet matrix plugin.
Yeah,
I mean,
sorry.
Oh, that must have. I just saw that come in. That must have
Yeah,
been to somebody else.
it's not you. It's Zoom basically selects an individual for me to message rather than everyone. So sorry about that.
No problem. So go ahead and just read out your question since you're talking already.
Oh, okay. I was just asking, you're using the ESNet Matrix plugin for your dashboard visualizations, is that right?
I don't know how to answer that. These are just straight from the perfSONAR repos.
That's a good Andy question.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can answer that. So yes, so those grids, if you look in Grafana, right, and you're building your own dashboards, it's called the ESNet Matrix Panel or something like that. So that,
Yeah.
yep, that's what's shown on those dashboards. So as Phil said, like uh, when you kind of build perfSONAR, kind of just using the default set of tools, there's a little agent that reads the test config and then sets up the dashboards, and so it kind of just handles all that stuff for you and
Cool.
pulling in the
Thank
right
you.
all that. So.
I did want to say one thing about the beta. There's problems with the Grafana interface. You can see them mousing over squares and the bar at the top of the screen.
Oh,
Maybe
you stopped sharing, Phil.
stop sharing. Okay. Well, check out the new one. Maybe I'll jump back in. It's too late. Why not? And then clicking on a square takes you to this guy again. Do you see the white bar at the top of the screen
Yep, that's
instead of the? Go ahead.
yeah, no, that's interesting. If you wouldn't mind, if you haven't already, and sorry if I missed, if you could put an issue in the issue tracker, that'd be something good worth looking at. Wouldn't surprise me. Sometimes when the new beta has an upgraded Grafana, and sometimes that does weird things to,
Yeah, yeah,
and so we can investigate that.
yeah. I just thought it'd be fun to see that as to why a 3x3 can be helpful, is that you can compare it to the 3x3 on the production and the 3x3 on the beta. Okay, thanks
All
for.
right. We had one last question. Is there a documented workflow for creating custom aggregate graphs in Grafana that don't interfere with future perfSONAR upgrades?
Want me to
Not
help
for
with that
me.
one? Yeah, I was gonna say, want me to help with that one too, Phil?
Yes, please.
If you wouldn't mind being my visual aid, if you can click that little dashboards link up at the top between home and perfSONAR PS config. Yeah, so you'll see there's a folder there called My perfSONAR Dashboards, and I'm guessing it's empty. Yeah,
Yeah.
so the idea is we create that by default. If you throw any dashboards in there that you create by hand, those will not get overwritten by any updates. I mean, generally speaking, as long as you don't put them in that perfSONAR or perfSONAR PS config folder, they'll be safe. They'll go untouched. And then in terms of actually like the process of creating said dashboards, we do have, I can find it on the docs page. We do have one that talks a little bit about creating kind of some basic dashboards. And then we do have a couple workshops. I don't think we have a specific date, likely at TechX, where we've gone through the process of actually the mechanics of creating the dashboards. But assuming you know how to do that, just throw them in that folder and they should be safe.
Sounds like you have something to talk about during your office hours in 2 weeks, Andy.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have any more questions? All right. Well, thanks everybody. We're off next week because of Comex, but then the perfSONAR office hours will be, I want to say, May 16th. Yes, that is correct. So we will have open office hours on the 16th, and we can watch Andy and Mark give us a tap dance about all the other new features. Thanks, everybody. Have a good weekend.